Everyone, we have a forum for community college in Washington County, so I'm calling it to order.
Both committees?
Just the one. We have forum for
Oh,
this.
we have one. All right, so I'm going to call the order, the Warren County Personnel and Higher Education Committee to order.
Now, call together the Warren County Finance Committee together. We have a quorum. Yes.
All right, we ready to start? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first week of classes, end of the first week of classes. So welcome back to campus, and we're thrilled to have you here. We have some updates to provide first, and then Anne-Marie will present our annual capital request and walk you through that. Talk a little bit about just restarting conversations about our facilities master plan and going forward for the next several years. So go ahead and get started. What else? Okay. Technical difficulty. It just needs a little boost. Just some exciting news among many things, but once again, our nursing program, the nursing graduates from this past May, 100% passed what's called the NCLEX exam. That's the national exam that all nursing potential registered nurses need to take in order to be certified. 100% passing rate is really phenomenal. The state average is around 74%. The national average is around 72%. So once again, our nursing program just continues to outperform many of our peers across the state and the nation. And just a few highlights. We've been more carefully tracking some of our service area high schools and some valedictorians and salutatorians, top 10 that are coming to the Adirondack. So we serve, of course, all types of students, all students with all backgrounds, but to see even some of our top performing students in our service area choose to attend SUNY Adirondack, I think speaks to the quality of instruction and the programs that we offer. So I highlight that. So enrollment. So first day of classes was this Wednesday. Students have that first week of classes to move things around and change their schedules. There's always fluctuation over the next couple of weeks, but where we are as the first day of classes, we're slightly ahead of last year in our enrollment. So that's a good trend line to be experiencing. Our biggest growth is in our college and the high school courses. Those are the courses that we deliver in the high school, where high school instructors are certified as our adjuncts and they teach our college courses. And we continue to see an increase in interest in those areas. It's a great pipeline for us. For students that were already engaging in college level courses, for the Adirondack becomes then an opportunity to help them see the path that when they complete high school, you've already got maybe some credit. Why not continue at SUNY Adirondack? Do we expect 100%? No, but we're continuing to develop that pipeline. So it's good to see continued interest there. Across the board, we had the largest increase of students in Saratoga, Warren, and Washington County, so our service area, and that was good to see a trend that had been sort of flattening out, a little bit of decline over the past couple of years. We've had a bit of an increase this fall, so we're glad to see that. We expect to have 350 in housing by the end of this week, which is 400 is about our capacity, so we're still a little under capacity, but still in a good place in terms of meeting our pro forma. Interesting trend that we're seeing in housing, and we've been kind of seeing it across the nation in many institutions, more and more students wanting single rooms, and for a variety of reasons, but so we're monitoring that because our rooms are not necessarily single, and we're going to continue to look at that. But a lot of excited students moving in last week, and they're here from all over the country, and certainly New York State. As I said, college and high school program has had growth. Student athletes, the student athletes that we've been able to recruit, and what we mean by that, student athletes that are coming specifically because they want to be part of an athletic program while they're studying, has grown tremendously. And in fact, our out-of-state students, which a lot of them are some of our athletes, that enrollment has increased almost triple from last year. So that's exciting to see other students join our community. And for the first time, actually, in quite a while, we've seen an uptick in our students who are a little bit older. So again, those adult students that we've been talking about as a population that really should be taking advantage of education at a community college. And we're actually seeing that this year in the data, which is wonderful. So that's a population that we want to continue to grow, knowing that that traditional student is flat or declining depending on where you are. So that's kind of just a snapshot of where we are as of this week. Where we're seeing tremendous growth, which is really kind of an interesting trend that we're seeing across the community college sector, is in our community education workforce development. So what we typically call sort of our non-credit programs, short-term, what we call boot camps, getting people upskilled or reskilled in a shorter period of time, and that they have a particular skill when they leave that training program to then either continue on into a degree program here at the college or be more employed, which is part of the opportunity. We've had about 500 registrations in our continuing ed courses. This is both here in Queensbury and Saratoga. This number now exceeds pre-pandemic numbers. So really not just growth from last year, but really looking back when the world was a little bit different a few years ago, that we're actually seeing growth even comparing to pre-pandemic. Again, these boot camps, they're 12-week programs typically. Usually they're either a mixture of in-person and online, depending on the program. And we continue to offer boot camps in front-end web development, suite of services, IT help desk, and then what we were calling electrical maintenance technician, we named it. It made more sense for what we were preparing people to do as the industrial manufacturing technician. Just as a reminder, I talked about this before. This was the program that we worked in conjunction with Global Foundries to develop the curriculum. So it creates a pre-apprenticeship opportunity for folks that come out of this boot camp. We've been able to secure multiple workforce types of grants so that we can make those programs at no cost to students who qualify. It really does help to bring in people that may be underemployed, unemployed, to get them a skill to then keep moving on. We've had some great success stories out of these, as I kind of mentioned. We had hoped that it would not only serve a population of people, like I said, who are underemployed, unemployed, but also give people an opportunity to try college who may not feel like they have the confidence yet to tackle maybe a next level work. And hopefully with some success would say, well, maybe I can earn a degree and I can enroll. And we've seen exactly that. We've seen a mixture of people who come out of, for example, like we offered our sterile processing technician program last year who were secured positions in the hospital. We have people in front-end web development who received a promotion because they were part of that boot camp. And then we've had people in the IT help desk program who said, I think I'm going to pursue now a college degree in computer science because I now feel like I have some confidence in that. And now they're enrolling in credit-bearing courses. So that's a really good next step. And with the electrical maintenance technician, now the industrial manufacturing technician, again, entering a pre-apprenticeship program at Global Foundries, enrolling in our mechatronics program. So a variety of success stories that come out of just a 12-week program, and that seems to be continuing to be really popular for our students. We've also been partnering with other educational entities to expand our portfolio of offerings, but not necessarily expand the expense. So, as you can imagine, anytime you bring in a new program, a new degree program, or even a training program, you have to have instruction, and in some case, equipment or whatever the investment needs to be. There's lots of training partners out there. So we partnered with a online healthcare training program that the unique part about it is not just an online go on, do it by yourself, no one's there to help you, because that may not be helpful for certain learners. This is an actual provider that provides kind of that what we call wraparound services. So they actually assign them advisors so they can work with them and a tutor. And so now we've been able to expand some of our healthcare training in these areas that are in demand without a real expense for the college. And we continue to look at ways to increase our portfolio, but not necessarily increase our expenses. We just, we're contracting with Orta and Ford Mountain to do some training for them and our contract training partnerships in the community education area, which is great. And we had many discussions this summer and are continuing the work to partner with 773, BOS, and another HVAC union leader from the Albany area to develop a boot camp that would be kind of the next step in HVAC from BOS program, and then eventually into the apprenticeship program at 773, or have enough skill to be able to be an entry-level technician in the HVAC area, which we all know is in high demand. And our focus was, at least to start with, focus on the residential area as we continue to look at new energy efficient ways to for HVAC. We're going to be developing a boot camp around that in consultation with some HVAC experts.
What specifically are you doing with Orta?
It's leadership training, management training, all of your employees. Yep, and I kind of the first step, they've been satisfied with what we're doing so far, so we're hoping to continue. So some new opportunities that we're developing to continue to address the workforce shortages in the region, and try to do them in partnership, of course, with our employers and local educators. One of the ways that the state has been funding us when they kept our operating aid flat is to provide more grant opportunities to particularly influence campuses to try new things or expand on things that are working. So this summer, we were very busy writing proposals and grant applications for funding that came out of Governor Hochul's allocation to SUNY, the $75 million transformation fund is what she called it. That allocation went to SUNY, and it was up to SUNY to decide how those funds would be spent. So what they did for a portion of those funds is used a formula based on enrollment and other factors for campuses, and each campus got an allocation based on that. And then we needed to submit a proposal on how we would use that allocation. As you can imagine, there were some strings attached, like most grant programs, and there were specific activities that we were asked to respond to. So it wasn't just, we could use this for operating funds, or we could use. It was very specific to workforce development as well as student success. SUNY Adirondack was awarded or allocated $945,000, which is no small amount. So we're grateful for that. We submitted our proposal just a few weeks ago, just got it approved last week. Half of those funds will go specifically to workforce development. Some of them will actually support the boot camps that I just described. So continuing to be able to offer those training programs for folks at no cost, and also the supports that go around that. A portion of it, we're going to be hiring someone on a temporary basis for the grant period, a 2-year period. What we're calling an employer partnership specialist. One of the things that we see at a gap is we have a lot of people out in the community at various points talking to employers, but no one that's really dedicating time to that. And so we want to have someone, it might end up being someone on staff to kind of do as a release time for them, to go out and spend time with employers, to making sure that are we meeting your needs, and if not, completely. Continuing to develop more internship sites for our students, for our programs, bringing that information back to our faculty and our staff to say, XYZ company could really use more training in whatever that is. How can we make that work? So really having a dedicated person on a part-time basis to be able to be out in the community, drumming up more business for us and making sure that we're really responding to the needs of the community. The second piece of that is really having a dedicated person to be able to focus on careers. We all know that if students understand why they're in college, what the career opportunities are when they leave college, they're more likely to enroll, but also stay. And so we want a dedicated career advisor that's going to be working with students to make sure they have a plan, what their plan is, how we can help them develop a plan if they don't have one. Of course, we expect not every student comes to college with a laid out plan. I know I didn't. I'm sure many of you might not have either. But also then to create those, again, connections between the workplace, employers, and our students. So this grant will allow us to be able to have a dedicated resource. The second part of the fund is going to be used to continue to help our students achieve in math. That's the subject that holds most students back is mathematics. So we have some great initiatives in place. This will just help us continue those to really address students who are coming in with some math needs. So that's the transformation fund. I'm really excited that we were awarded a what's called Future Workforce Center grant for healthcare careers. This is a 3-year grant. It was a very competitive process. I'm happy to say Adirondack was the top winner, so to speak. But this will allow us to bring back, because we didn't have the funding to do it, training programs in CNA, home health aid and patient care assistant, BJJ and PCA. Those again are non-credit programs that can help people enter the healthcare career at one phase with the idea of trying to help them continue to move up a career ladder. But the exciting thing for us is that as part of the grant, we're going to be working on how we can create some credit courses so that these training programs, what we call kind of stack into actually earning credit that then stacks into a college degree. It also makes students more eligible for financial aid. So from a financial sustainability model, we can get more students into some of these healthcare pathways with actually being able to take advantage of the financial aid system. Right now, there still is no financial source for students who take non-credit programs, even though it helps them become trained in a particular skill area. There's no financial aid for non-credit students. We also get funding for it. So we're always chasing grants to be able to offer these opportunities for folks who need it. This grant will also help us develop some credit pathways. We have $128,000 that's earmarked for internships, so helping more students to be able to take on a paid internship. We don't want students to have to forego their jobs to be able to actually earn different types of work experiences. So this grant will help us be able to do that. And then finally, we got $40,000 to upgrade our simulation equipment for the nursing program, so that we can continue to offer simulation as a portion of their clinical experience. So grateful for quite a bit of money in a very short period of time, and we're excited about being able to utilize that to college. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Anne Marie unless you have any questions about what it means.
Okay, thank you. All yours. Happen fast. Did this work? This is the best time that I get to talk to you because generally we're not asking you for capital money. The same is true this year. Our capital request is rather small. We are not asking for a sponsor contribution for it. It will be funded with our capital chargeback dollars and likely a little money from our Adirondack Housing Association as well. It's one item. It's some upgrades and enhancements to campus safety and security on campus. The local share is $250,000. The total project budget is $500 when it's matched with the state funds. And again, there will be no unfunded money and no sponsor contribution. So it seems simple, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has about this request. Yeah.
What is it? What are you spending $500,000 on?
It is a host of various items, some of which I probably don't want to talk about in an open forum, but it is a lot of camera upgrades, security upgrades that will help kind of increase the effectiveness of the staff that we have on campus without increasing
Mechanics,
bodies.
not personnel.
I'm sorry.
Mechanical stuff, not
Oh,
personnel.
yeah, this is capital. None of this is personnel. So,
But it's not.
it's an additional public safety vehicle so that we
Wait,
have
wait,
more
wait,
than
wait.
one.
Yes, I understand all that.
Oh.
And I understand you don't want to talk about it, but is this, a lot of times the wonderful mechanical upgrades requires 7 people to operate them. Has this got associated personnel costs with it?
It does not. That's a great question. Thank you. This actually should do the opposite. The equipment we have is so outdated that it very often does not work.
Okay.
It's offline, it's not working, and it just needs to be updated. So by putting it through as a capital request, the state will pay for half of it. So. Any other questions? Yes.
And is that all?
There must be more.
This is the request for 24-25. So each year, our capital request, generally what we control is the capital chargeback dollars. That's the $300 per FTE that we get in capital chargeback from students that attend SUNY Adirondack that do not reside in Warren and Washington County. At one point during our peak enrollment, that equated to about $300,000 a year. State matched it $600. We use it towards basically deferred maintenance, replacing outdated equipment, not necessarily renovating spaces, major renovations. We use it to address our deferred maintenance. At this point, that amount is about $250,000 a year. So this will be the whole request for what we call 24-25, because the state won't approve it till April. And then we generally don't get approval to start spending that money for a few months after that. We do have other things to talk to you about, but this request does require action from you. And we do also generally include a draft resolution for your full board meetings, which you each have at your desk. We include the draft each year just because SUNY requires very specific language. And if they don't have it, they'll make me go back to you again. So
So Washington County, ACC, motion by Dave, second. Sam, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, carried.
So for Warren County personnel in their education. Yeah. Motion, second. Either, thank you. Any questions, comments? Say no. All the question, all those in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? And we'll bring for that to finance.
Well, finance will pick that up. Motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Runyon on the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? None. Motion carries.
thank you.
That's on the board.
So because we have you here, we didn't want to waste any time, and we thought we would open up a discussion about the college's current facilities master plan. We presented this to you last September. It was a very thick document. You may or may not remember. My printed version looks like this. They're generally a 10-year plan. It's required for obtaining that 50% match or reimbursement from the state of New York. So it's important that each college have one of these. It was endorsed by the college and the board of trustees, and it really is intended to support the college's academic plan, its strategic enrollment management plan, and it does impact our long-term financial plan. So it's an important document. One thing I do want to say about it, I'll give you the dollar amounts here just as a refresher. It was about 59 million in capital projects, about 3.6 million in that deferred maintenance that we were just talking about. And then we had a long range project in there, which was about 37.5 million. And those are the dollars kind of estimated out to when they would be completed. And that long range project was related to athletics. It can seem like a large dollar amount. There are pie in the sky types of projects in here that we believe we would love to have on our campus, fully support our academic mission, our academic plan, our enrollment management plan, but acknowledge that we don't have the funding for those. We put them in the plan because if someone walks in the door and says, I'd like to support that, we can't get the 50% match if it's not in the document. So it's intended to not necessarily be the plan that you're going to execute step by step, but the vision that you have for your campus encompassing all of those other important documents. The idea is to make sure that your facility supports the mission in the best way possible. So we do have a couple of master plan goals. They align with the strategic plan goals of the college. This go around, this 10-year plan, really focusing on supporting student learning. I think you've heard Dr. Duffy talk a lot about the initiatives that we've had to help retain students, help them complete, enhance their student life on campus. Students are demanding that right now. Increasing space utilization. We're pretty good at this already, but I think, when we talked about Adirondack Hall, we kind of brought forward to you, like, we'd like a new building for this. And we're like, okay, well, I think we can renovate and expand. And so that idea that we probably don't want to significantly increase the footprint that we have here on campus, the focus would be to better utilize the space we have and renovate when we can. really highlighting athletics and recreation, improving the south end of campus, and some strategic relocations that just kind of make sense for student life and student flow. Included in this document is a wonderful building conditions assessment. A significant amount of work was done by the architect and by our director of facilities, who's here in the middle here, Mark Morin, to really assess the condition of each building on campus. And you'll see the green are excellent, the blue are good, the yellow are fair, and the red are what are considered at this point to be in poor condition. None of these are new to you. We've mentioned them in the past. Significantly, the gym is one that we've mentioned to you. Humanities Theater, we've had several grant submissions to try to renovate that into some space that's a little more focused on current workforce needs. And our maintenance building as well. But the other is Dear Love Hall, which was a building that was originally constructed to do, regular classroom type work. And right now we're trying to do other lab related things in it. We're just kind of trying to fit it in. So just an update on some of the projects underway. You know about all of these because you've approved them. We have a small project that we're about to start planning in Scoville that really will expand the tutoring space and the accessibility services space that we have for our students. We've seen an increase in that need, and that increase just, it's overfilling the small amount of space that's available. So that is a pretty small project that we'll likely start planning this spring. The higher education emergency funds provided money for things like outdoor dining, and we don't have that. Much of the spread that we had here on campus was when people ate together, removed their masks, that type of thing. We're not actually as worried about that right now, but the funding paid for it. So we have the opportunity to create a very small outdoor dining space for our students. Right now, there is none. The Washington Hall renovation is currently underway and will be wrapping up in the next few months. We significantly improved the healthiness of the HVAC system there. We created a centralized space for student health and wellness so that students could go to one space and receive a multitude of services to help improve their well-being, including our mental health counseling, access to the Glens Falls Hospital nurse, access to our food source or hub that we call it, which provides, food, gas cards, things that students may need to help eliminate the burdens that might be prohibiting them from focusing on their academics. And there are many improvements to accessibility of that building happening as well, and actually across the campus. And then the facilities maintenance project or deferred maintenance projects that we're currently working on right now are replacing the cooling tower in Scoville, repairing the external walls there, and we're working to replace the student center roof and upgrade the ventilation there as well. So we're doing some good work to maintain the actual infrastructure of our campus right now. That's about $7 million worth of projects that we're working on, most of which were funded by the Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds. And then for discussion, the things we really just wanted to open a discussion about with you. We're not asking you for money today, but we're asking you to help us think about how we can begin to address really 4 main projects that we see as being the next priority on the list. The first is the renovation of the gymnasium, and in addition for that, to support athletics, the physical education degree, our recreation space. Our current gym is not air cooled. If you've ever attended an event in there, it is uncomfortable at best. It has received no renovation since it was built. The locker rooms are extremely outdated. They're blue and pink. And there is no additional space in the building whatsoever. So even like our director of athletics his office is in what used to be a mechanical closet. When you walk in the building, there's no space for gathering. This building is an emergency shelter for Warren County. It's a great building. Structurally, it's good, but it needs some major renovation to bring it up to even what a student in a local high school would experience in their gymnasium today. And we have done some work to it. You've seen some projects. We've refinished or we replaced the gym floor. We addressed the roof. We addressed some things outside. We've done what we feel we can with deferred maintenance, and the rest really needs It's kind of a major refresh. The Humanities Building is what used to be our theater. You'll remember we renovated Adirondack Hall. We built a nice addition, and then we had to stop at the theater. And if you take a tour through there, you will see where you cross the line. Like there's nice building here, and then you take one step in the hallway. And it's the completely unrenovated, what used to be music and theater space on campus. We do envision a much better purpose for that space at this point in time. It's really, let me pull it up here. Talk for so long, my brain goes a little numb, but it's engineering, computer science, Cisco lab space is what we have envisioned for that. It's a significant project. It's about a $6.5 million renovation with probably an additional $2 million in FF&E that's not included there. So it's probably all in about an $8.5 million project. We've submitted several grant requests for it. We'll continue to do so. But that's one where that building is pretty underutilized at this point, and we have an opportunity to transform it into something that has career pathways that are desperately in need right now. So we just need the money to be able to do that. And then Dearlove Hall is one of our older academic buildings. It's outdated. It was built for, regular classroom learning. Right now we're trying to do mechatronics labs in there and things like that. So it's probably third on this list of priorities. Mark would tell you it's probably first on his list of priorities. But we want to just renovate those spaces, update our visual arts gallery, create a large scale design space within the building. And that project was priced in here at about $13.5 million. And lastly, the one that probably seems the smallest that maybe you can help us with in the near future is parking lot repair and repavement, specifically on the north end of campus outside of Adirondack Hall. Probably where many of you drove today to park and get here. It's about a $1.8 million project, and it's one that we currently don't have the funding for. At $300,000 in capital chargebacks a year, it would take us several years of investment to save the money to be able to do that. So we really were just looking to have a discussion with this group, put all of these great minds together, see if there was anything that we could think about. Or pathways we could start going down to find avenues of funding available for any of these priorities. You want to add anything, Chris?
No, I mean, I think, we obviously acknowledge again that we're not here today to ask for money. We don't want to lose sight of the fact that we still have an infrastructure that we need to maintain and that we want to make sure meets the needs of students and the instruction in our community. So we don't, and obviously the counties are the stewards of our physical plant. So we just need to partner with you to collaborate. As Anne-Marie said, for example, the Humanities Building, we have some negotiations asked out to Senator Schumer's office and Gillibrand's office. It's made it through the first round, but you don't know where that's going to go. I mean, especially in areas where we think there's appetite in the grant world, and most of it now is around workforce development. If we can find a way to be able to demonstrate that this investment will actually result in training more people for jobs or those types of things, that's where most grants are. Things like the gymnasium, there's just not a lot of grants out there that are, that's kind of just an expectation. You renovate certain spaces to remain as modern as possible. So we're just looking for any input. If you have thoughts, and you may not have them today, but even as you run across opportunities where we can partner with the counties, or you see some funding opportunities that we might not know exist, we'd love to, for you to share those with us, and we might be able to do them.
This represent a switch in either philosophy or emphasis away from theater and the arts and that sort of thing towards.
So, yeah, in some ways, because there just isn't the demand. I mean, we've been watching the patterns of enrollment for several years. We had a music program that we started maybe 20 years ago, and for almost 10 years, the enrollment just remained at 3, 4, 5. It wasn't a sustainable program. Theater, we never had a program. We have a theater, and by the way, it was an auditorium that was created into a theater. And, you know, we have some classes and there was some modest interest, but we've never had a theater program. The days of having a theater where we would fill every seat for a performance just has not surfaced. And there's other community assets. So for example, last year we partnered with the Wood Theater and we had the one theater production we do each semester. They actually did it at the Wood, which was kind of nice. You could be downtown. When we did it the same night the season was open so that people could do kind of the dinner and theater. We just think there's other community assets that are much better situated for that type of curriculum and those types of activities. Whereas our theater, yes, the 400 or what is it, 400 seat theater, where we use it the most is for our nursing community graduate ceremonies. So when we look across, as Anne Marie said, a repurposing space, it's a nice big space that when we have a local company come and say, we've got robotic arms that we could donate to use as training, we have no place to put something like that. The theater, because of its tall ceilings, could be a place that we can repurpose to actually do some things that can really be workforce, focus. Visual arts is actually where we have seen some growth. And that's why when we talk about Dear Love, where we already have the visual arts gallery, we have art studios, there's opportunity to really enhance those programs. We're not moving away from arts in general, but there's some components in there that we just have not found to be a sustainable part of our curriculum.
And one of the portions of the Dear Love Hall renovation project is an addition of like almost a 2-story 3D art studio, kind of acknowledging the still fine on campus. And that we're not just renovating what's there, it's adding, would you call it like a black box type?
A black box theater. And then, Tom Lloyd from Adirondack Studios has been talking to us for years, like, can you create some curriculum around 3D design? That's obviously a big industry for them. And so we did incorporate that, at least in the planning and the design of the video.
That was the next statement I was gonna make, so.
He would be thrilled if we
Yeah.
finally were able to come to that, yeah.
But for us to be able to do that in that space, those courses that are being housed, squished into that building right now, they need somewhere to go. And the right place on campus for them really is the old Humanities Theater building. Yes.
Amber, Dr. Duffy evoked the name of Senator Schumer, and recently I read that he had gotten some money for Strand Theater over in Hudson Falls. You've essentially moved culinary arts to downtown Glens Falls. Is there any type of discussions about utilizing theater space in Washington County or in Warren County, the Wood, the Strand, other facilities as part of your curriculum?
Absolutely, and that's where we have done some of that with the Wood. We only offer a few classes, and so where we can partner with the community, we absolutely would. It's just not a big demand from our students. We tend to get more demand in those kinds of areas, even in the non-credit area, like, hey, I want to learn to play the guitar. I'm interested in theater or something like that. And we certainly utilize a lot of assets in the community. And that's kind of the point, is that let's really focus on campus assets that are things that can't be provided in the community. And that's where we make some of those decisions about whether it's the Strand, whether it's the Wood.
And as a part of developing this plan, part of the work that we did was we actually engaged an outside professional services firm to do a feasibility study for us of renovating the theater into a new theater. And really what that study came back and said was there are so many wonderful facilities that already exist in your service area that the demand, the need just was not there. So kind of goes beyond even our own academic programs we had them look at, but are there other areas, other organizations in our service area that would need this theater, that would use it, that it would be an asset for. And so that was basically the result that came from that feasibility study, was use what assets already exist and repurpose this space. Yes.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, do you have any current capital projects that are coming to fruition and coming off the books?
It's the one that were on that previous slide. So we're in process of doing about $7 million worth of projects right now. Most of them were funded with the federal higher education emergency relief funds related to really improving the healthiness of our HVAC systems on campus. And the state did match those. So, you know, we had some leeway with how to spend that money, not a lot. But we kept a portion of it to address that aging infrastructure on campus because the state agreed to fund 50% of it. So we tried to maximize those dollars. So it's about 7 million right now.
Henry, that 7 million is, will come off that facilities master plan estimate, correct?
Yes, yes,
When will it come off?
when we finish them. So probably in the next year and a half.
Okay, so in a year, if I'm understanding this correctly, you'll have the state kicked in 3.5 million, but you have an additional 3.5 million current funding that will come off the books in about a year. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
Taking off the books, you
Means you'll no longer be having to be making payments on it. So that capital project will come to fruition. There'll be no more payments. Okay, so that money that's currently going to fund this and encumber will then no longer be encumbered. We can use that for new capital projects.
No,
Is that correct?
we have to pay cash for our projects. We're not allowed to bond or take loans as a community college in New York State. This is cash.
But you've already paid that. with your-
Well, we'll be paying it.
paying it from the funds that were given. It's almost like a pass-through, right? You get
Yeah.
grant funds, you're paying for the project and it goes back out. It's not like we allocated money from somewhere else and now we're using it. This is all just grant funding and then the match that comes.
So all 7 million was grant funding.
Correct. Well,
Except for a couple of small items on there, yes.
and half comes from the state. Some of it came from the federal, the Recovery Act funds, we called it ARPA. And then we have some chargebacks that we use to also.
So for almost all of this money, with the exception of the small couple $100,000 chargeback, almost all this money was sitting in our grant G5. Lisa pulled it down in August and we'll be using it to actually pay the bills for these projects. As you know, the contractor sends us their invoice and we have 30 days to pay their bill. And so that money's gone.
Right, and you'll have, and once this project is completed in a year, you said that even though the chargebacks and so forth, a couple 100,000, that will be available, correct?
Yeah, and we'll be spending it on
250.
this one.
On the,
Yes. So there. Lisa could probably talk to you about this all day. She's sitting over here, but there is really, the college does not have capital money. You get about $250,000 in a year. We try to use it for deferred maintenance projects. The state matches it, but that's really all it is. These are nice one-time funds because they came from the federal government from her during that process, but.
That answer.
yeah. Yeah, that's good.
It's a little confusing because the chargebacks are money, these are capital chargebacks, so you only use the capital. And we just collect it from the FTE that we generate from people that come to us from outside of Warren, Washington County. And doesn't come from Warren, Washington.
So I think to clarify, once those projects are completed, it doesn't really free up any other
No.
money.
Oh, no. In fact, most of the time when we have a large project that's more than a couple $100,000, we have to come to you and ask you to kind of front load the cash for us. And that's happened a few times. Either county will kind of give us the cash to be able to pay the contractors. And then when we get the reimbursement from the state, the 50% we reimburse back, it's usually Warren County. Sometimes Washington has done it. Our foundation will do it for us that time. So it's not cash that we have that we can.
It doesn't free up now and you.
Yeah. I wish it did.
Yeah.
That would be great. And we usually plan ahead because it's such a long on-ramp for a project. So the state's not even going to consider this and pass this project till April. And then we won't even be able to start doing it probably until the summer, so May or June. Any other thoughts or discussions about any of this, especially any of the long-term projects, larger projects?
Can I speak to the gym one?
Yeah,
See,
that's why you're here,
you go
Mark.
to the page, like it's, I just want to clarify, the 17 mil, like ballpark, wherever that is, that's not like Emery mentioned just there. Our gymnasium, which was built, I think it was 66 here, that was, if I was to guess, I wasn't around, but that was our first building constructed on campus, so that is our primary hub for the college's electric, the water service, now we have fiber in there, but our sewer service, everything we have on campus gets discharged all the way to actually Meadowbrook Road. At the time, it was pretty much farmland, but when the college was built, it had its own sewer, wastewater treatment plant on campus, so since we've grown, the gym still holds, its original sewer lines, original, the power size is the water in the gym feeds, like I mentioned, all the old original buildings that were on campus. That's why we're not able to sprinkler them. So just got to clarify, the gym is kind of that main hub. So that dollar amount's not really, it's a lot of infrastructure that's tied into that project associated with those costs. It's not just like a building, it's for whatever doubt. There's a lot of, there's a lot of underground there.
It's like a giant switch gear in there.
Yeah, it's great. But even the new athletic field, the college built last year, our electric service for that comes out of the gyms switch here. So those lead time items, our engineers also like a few years out to purchase those if they were to go down. So hopefully but we've been very lucky with them. But I just want to clarify, like our infrastructure for the whole college comes out of that building. So that's a large, even our power, to shut the power down is a big deal here.
With the amount of lead time that you need, when can the counties expect the gentle nudge on this page?
Which item on this page?
I'm assuming you're gonna start with the gym. That's probably top priority, right? It has been for a long time.
It has been for a long time.
I mean, at some point, because of the lead time you need, there will be an ask of the counties. So the sooner we know, obviously, the better.
Yeah, I think we're looking, again, for you to help us figure out what could that be. And maybe it's a small group that can come together and kind of talk through, like, what are the realities of obviously your funding, our funding, and start developing a plan, whether it's next year or a multi-year plan. Its sources would be ideal to do, of course. We would love to talk about it today. We know we may not be ready for that, but we have to at some point. Yeah, we have to at least start to develop some sort of that is based in the realities, and then also, so I would say the sooner the better. We've been, as you said, we've been talking about this. This shouldn't be a new idea for those of you who've been around a while. So, we're looking kind of for your advice and help on what you be able to help us address this.
These side projects are debt service for the counties.
Yeah.
We have some strategic planning as well on our end.
Absolutely. And, just to remind, it's 17 million total, that means half. Sources, like we did with Aaron that call. So I think the sooner that we might be able to sit down and kind of plot out what we know anyway, and then have your discussion. It really is.
Need to be the realist in the room, but the problem right now is the position the state has put our counties in and has done to the community college for years. We're not in a great position for what we have done for the college in the past 5 years or 10 or whatever. We've done a lot. It's hard to bite that apple right now, which is a tough time. But in another way, I think that the gym, if it's used as your facility for emergencies and things like that, there's usually money available for all those things. And with it being the original pipeline of everything that was here, there's got to be green energy and all those incentives that you could revamp that whole thing. There's got to be opportunities that we
need to think outside the box to get to. Kind of like you're doing everything around workforce development, there's probably a different direction to go with that than any of us are thinking. Where there's money available that would maybe even fund that. So I think there's opportunities, but right now for us to go to our county taxpayers and to ask for another debt service after we've just accomplished the things that we have, I think we would be way out of line. And we would get probably hammered for it, and maybe should. But that doesn't mean we don't want to try to help you get there and work for it.
And, you know, maybe I don't know, just trying to brainstorm, but, if we got together with some of your facilities folks to, you know, because they might be more in tune with some of the NYSERDA or, you know, other types of agencies that we may not even be tuned into. We have looked at FEMA, for example, as a source because we are a shelter and we thought maybe we could, you know, and there might still be little pieces. I mean, like we tried to do in other projects, you get a piece from here, you get, you know, 500,000 here and $1 million from here, and then all of a sudden you're putting it all together and it works. But, you know, again, any of that feedback that you might have even as a county agency, and there might even be opportunities for you to apply for us. Another, you know, it may not be something the college qualifies for, but you might qualify, but it could be utilized in our facilities. I think those are the kind of creative solutions that we know the reality, you know, what we can figure out together.
The only downside is sometimes when you bite from that apple, they tie things to it that you absolutely don't want.
Correct, and that, you know, we find ourselves in that position all the time.
Because your gymnasium might not be a gymnasium, even though it was.
Yeah, right.
Maybe use this as an educational moment then, for, let's take a gymnasium auditorium, 17 million, half paid by the state, and then the rest picked up by the counties. How do the counties finance that? Is it bonds and not one portion? Or what length? How do we go about it?
And what interest rate. And that's the problem. There's so many unknowns right now. It's a bad time for us to look.
Yeah.
But we should look at the plan and how we get there. So when the timing's right, we can do it.
And just remember, our capital split is significantly different than our operating split.
Yeah.
It's like 70-30 on the capital. Your way.
Yeah, it's historically been based on your equalized assessed values. And the attorneys have worked together to kind of assist you in figuring that out. And really, the last time we did this for Adirondack Hall, I think, you know, the attorneys provided several options to each board of supervisors to consider as far as length of term for the bond.
So for easy math, we just went. By the time we're probably able to do this, it's probably 10 million is our share. So that means 7 million, 3 million.
Well, in fairness, this dollar amount, you know, you never know with construction today, right? But this dollar amount is priced out to, I can tell you in a minute here. I gotta find the right.
While you're looking at that, Brian, I was thinking if we have 8.5 million county share, but some of that is offset by other sources of, they have 3.5 million, more than 5 million, split that.
A good idea, but I think with the escalating costs, I just don't know. If you started today, I'm not sure that number even still works.
The gym's priced out for starting next year.
Yeah,
And then you work with Joy McCoy, so they kind of, right, that's your architect still?
J&Z.
Yeah.
They took each project, kind of aligned it with what year we thought we'd do it and priced it out according to that.
I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but, you know, would there be an appetite just to get a small group together to just continue this discussion so that we can at least start to put some things down on paper and, you know, be creative, and we're not asking for anything tomorrow, just.
And the walkthrough on some of these.
Yeah, that would be, I think Mark would be happy to walk.
We would love that.
through and show you kind of the infrastructure pieces of it.
And I think since Queensbury's developed since the 60s, it's a lot of things are more feasible now than they were in the 60s. Like I have I don't know if you guys, LA Group, who designed a lot of sewer infrastructure. Since the Fowler Square was built up on the corner, I believe like force mains were put into wastewater. You know, again, our gym handles all our wastewater. We discharge everything from Meadowbrook Road, which is about a half mile from the woods. So a lot of, at the time, it's kind of like, I think the way that development's kind of helped the college long-term for financial planning for its infrastructure. But, you know, actually in the sixties, again, I wasn't around. I think there was nothing else around the college. So a lot of the roads had to be, the power had to be special just for the school. So I think it makes sense now. And back in the sixties, until Scoville was built in the nineties, this whole campus used to be electric heat. Like there wasn't natural gas around until mid nineties.
So I do have one other project or topic I just want to put on your radar, and that is the disposal of excess property. We actually talked about this in 2017, a couple of years ago, so some of you may remember. But the college does have a piece of property called Crockwell Pond. It was originally acquired in 1980 as a gift from Margaret Crockwell. It has not been needed for educational purposes by the college in a very significant period of time. In 2017, the board did authorize me to work with the counties to dispose of the property. It just kind of, it sat on the corner of my desk, I'll just say that. We had a lot of projects going on at that point. And actually over the last few years, the city of Glens Falls has approached us with an interest in the property. And so we're currently having it appraised. We're working with the city of Glens Falls to determine what they would be interested in. And so I'm just putting this on your radar to say that you own this property in trust for the college, and we may be coming to you with a request to formally dispose of it. And the college's attorney and each of your attorneys would likely work together on putting those documents together.
So that we're fine.
Mark's getting it.
Yeah, I'm just having an appraisal done. The last appraisal, I think, was 2013 or something, and it was low $5,000 because it's a wetland and it's in the middle of Glens Falls that's deeded, has restrictions on the deed for no development for a while. There's no setbacks around I think there's a 25-foot setback around the perimeter of the lake, and there's the Glens Falls is a big old sewer treatment plant right on the front of it where you could have any sort of building. So it's kind of it's like deeded right of ways for neighbors to drain or.
This is perfect because the state could give you $5 million and add it to the other end of the park for mission.
It'd be landlocked.
So creative.
Don't encourage him.
Yes.
I am very familiar with this property. I am very close friends with the family that owns the adjacent home, closest home to the pond. I've actually walked the pond. I do not know of, can't imagine that this is worth a lot of money. That's my gut intuition. For the life of me, don't know why the city of Glens Falls would want to own this pond. The pond is beautiful. It's clearly an amenity to an adjoining property owner, but maybe from the perspective of educational purposes, maybe biology, maybe plant type stuff would have continuing value to the college, not a very distinct direct monetary value. So beautiful piece of property, but probably my gut is I don't know if you're going to get Mr. Rockefeller or Mrs. Rockefeller to be ready to check for a lot of money. That would be my gut. We'll find out.
I mean, okay. I'm hesitant to share information outside of an executive session, but I would agree with you.
But it's like anything else. If it's ours, the expectations that we make. And it's not something that we haven't valued for at this point. There's plenty of places where our science classes can do water quality, so it's just, it's just one more thing. And every once in a while, the neighbors will call us and say, come over and do XRD, and it just, we have limited resources. And so it's really part of that.
That's really all we had.
That's all.
That's it. This was the easy meeting. Yeah.
Now that you've seen that your enrollment is, it looks like it's climbing, is it in line with what your budget was? Or is the enrollment better than what the budget? Where are we?
Right now, it looks like we will meet budget and our budget was nearly flat. Certain sections of our enrollment are increasing, certain are dropping a little bit, but overall, it looks like we anticipate to meet budget. We won't know for a few more weeks through our census date. But as of right now, it looks like we'll meet budget and our budget, if you look at it, was pretty much flat. Very small increase.
Anyway, sorry, one more thing. The grant awards that Dr. Duffy talked about, are any of those going to be able to offset things that were already in the budget? Or are they going to be new additional things? Because if some of those can offset the use of fund balance, that'd be fantastic. All new stuff.
Right now, we don't believe so.
Can't believe we got to try it.
I know. I'm right there with you. It has been how the state has given us any new money. Like, we'll give you this, it's very restricted, you can only spend it on X, Y, and Z.
And just on that, we are, of course, ramping up our advocacy efforts again, as we always do every year, and we will be back in touch with you just to ask for your help in helping this.
When did you want to be like, we're deep in budget till the middle of November at least, so.
You mean as far as I think we can wait for whenever it's good for you all.
But I mean, it's probably best right after the budget's passed, it's like,
December,
kind of a lull time for us a little bit.
So maybe after the holidays.
Okay.
in the year.
Either one, or in December, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, it is, what it is. We're supposed to be relaxing.
how about I try to arrange something with your two?
Oh, yes, that.
Get through that.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your time and your support and your energy and
Motion to adjourn the county personnel and education. Motion. Thank you, second. You, all in favor? Adjourn.
Brandy, adjourn, motion. Roger comments, Supervisor Runyon, second, and all those favor, aye. Meeting
I got it.